a boat, she is a light high on a hill in dark of night. She is a wave, she is the deep, she is the dark where angels sleep when all is still and peace abides. She carries me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side. And though I walk through valleys deep and shadows chase me in my sleep, on rocky cliffs I stand alone. I have no name, I have no home. With broken wings I reach to fly. She carries me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side. A thousand arms, a thousand eyes, a thousand ears to hear my cries. She is the gate, she is the door. She leads me through and back once more. When day has dawned and death is nigh, she'll carry me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side.
Welcome. I was conceived, carried, held in the womb of my mother for 9 months. And she birthed me. I exited into the world through my mother's vagina. And so did she through her mother's. And so did her mother. I am born through a lineage of wombs and vaginas, like billions of humans on Mother Earth. I sit here in agreement to my life as it came to me through the womb and vagina lineage of women in my family. And I sit in agreement with the womb and vagina lineage that you have come through. And I bow down to the lineage of wombs, vaginas, women, mothers. I also bow down to the sacred vagina of Mother Earth and the invisible vagina of the great mother of this universe that is permeating through every life on this planet. She is the source. She is the beginning. To her, I bow down. I am Rekha Kurp, and I am honored and touched and moved to welcome you on this 14-day online journey of navigating, walking through Eve Ensler's Vagina Monologues. It's Vagina Monologue season at She Stands Tall project. A very happy, celebratory Vagina Day, Valentine's Day. And as I sit here, I also want to take a moment to give a shout out to all the sisters of Vagina Monilogues 2018, who we did this in person. It was an in-person movement. We hosted the Vagina Monilogues at Lahe Lahe and Shunya in Bangalore. And I have to remember them. And to know that they are remembered, they are held, they are celebrated in this moment. And this journey of Vagina Monologues, I will be hosting with 14 sacred women from all over the world. For 14 days, you will be journeying with us and She Stands Tall project. Today is our first day. And today is the day we introduce this monologue to you, how it came about, what was the story behind it, what is the need for this monologue. And I must say that is the first time I'm hosting Vagina Monologues online, or even seeing it hosted live online in this streaming way. And I have to also give place that we have all 15 of us have just come together in our spirit, in our love for each other, without much practice. It's impromptu, and we are going to really have a wonderful time with each other. And this online monologue is only possible because we, as humans on Earth, are really moving through unforeseen circumstances of COVID. And so I also want to give that a place here. While my feet are grounded and rooted in Bangalore of India, I am joined by sisters from all over the world, from New York to South Africa, to Mauritius, to Malta, and the expansive breadth of India, from Ahmedabad to Bangalore, to Coimbatore, to Chandigarh and Dehradun. So it almost feels like a circle yeah, of vagina monologues enveloping the earth for the next 14 days. And what is vagina monologues? What is V-Day? For that, what better way than to watch a very short, a 3-minute video that introduces this work? How did it begin? What does it stand for? What is the context? And what is the awareness that vagina monologues, which is a part of the V-Day movement, the V-Day organization started by Ensler. So just let's take a moment to look at that and give it the sacred place, because that is where it all began. And there we have the vagina monologues. And we encourage you through these 14 days to really donate, yeah, support a charity, support an organization that works with women in your area. Get to know more about what's happening, yeah. And that's something that I really want to emphasize on, yeah. And over the next 14 days, we will be hosting 14 vagina monologue pieces. And each piece is going to be performed by more than one woman. And followed by each piece, we'll create a space for reflection, shared reflection, and also, just to see what is it, how do we show up in it? How does it resonate with us? And every day is one piece. So usually Vagina Monologues is performed over a continuous 3 hours, 4-hour evening. And here we have spread it out and it's live. So anyone, anywhere from the world can watch it, just like all the women who from all over the world who are hosting it. And what I would also like to say here is, while the emotional voice, the tone, emotional tone of this monologues, the language, the words used, and also the expression held in the monologues is very different, almost new to my own expression, I would say that the experience, the story it tells, hits home. It's like it's my story. It happened to me. It almost happened to me. I wish it happened to me. So there are some places that we have taken some creative liberties to bring our own expression as an addition to the original piece. However, it needs to be said that every monologue belongs to every woman. It is, every monologue demonstrates the pain and also the resilience that every vagina, everywhere, every moment, every day on earth navigates, moves through, and finds a voice to express. So I will say to you that you will be triggered. There will be moments of emotions and sensations that may emerge for you as you watch these monologues over the next 14 days. The vagina monologues, as I see it, awakens and knocks at the unconscious, inviting us to remember, to give place to that which stands separate, ostracized, shamed. So please take care of yourself. Yeah, be gentle and kind to yourself as you watch. Memories may emerge, and seek the support and help you need. Make room for self-care. Feel free to reach out to us. Share your stories, your comments with us, reflections with us. We would be delighted to receive them from you. And we are now moving into our monologue for today. And before that, as is the work that She Stands Tall creates in the world, is to really create safe, sacred space of ritual, of feminine energy. And I would like to open today and create this space, sacred space, through some chants that I grew up with. And these chants are remembrance to the great mother in her energy of the maiden, the mother, the queen, and the crone. And followed by also a wish, a blessing that these 14 days we walk in agreement together. We are able to see each other in our pain, in our celebration, We have the courage, we find the courage, and we also are able to see the light within our own self. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Namastestu Mahamaye Shri Pidhe Surapujite Shankha Chakra Gadahaste Mahalakshmi Namostute Sarvamangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostude Kali Kali Mahakali Bhadrakali Namostude Kulam cha Kuladharmam cha Mam cha Palaya Palaya Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May there be peace, peace. And we begin the show for the day. Today's introduction is going to be read by 6 women. And I invite them to join me here. I bet you were worried.
Yes, I was worried.
I was worried too.
We were worried.
You were worried about vaginas.
We were worried for our vaginas.
We were worried what we think about vaginas, and even more worried that we don't think about them.
We were worried about our own vaginas. We needed a context of other vaginas, a community, a culture of vaginas.
True that. There's so much darkness and secrecy surrounding them. Like the Bermuda Triangle, nobody ever reports back from there.
In the first place, it's not so easy to even find your vagina. Women go weeks, months, and sometimes years without looking at them.
A high-powered businesswoman was interviewed, and she said she was too busy. She didn't have the time.
Looking at your vagina, she said, is a full day's work.
Yeah, it is. Maybe not a full day, but it does take a lot of time.
Now you have to get down there on your back in front of a mirror, standing on its own and full length preferred.
You've got to get in the perfect position with the perfect light, which then is shadowed somehow by the mirror and the angle you're at. Then you get all twisted up. You're arching your head, killing your back. You're exhausted by the end of it.
Yup, that's what the high-powered businesswoman said. She was exhausted. She didn't have time for that. She was busy.
You see, it sure does take time looking at your vagina.
Yeah, vaginas need time and they need space.
This began the vagina interviews.
The vagina interviews became vagina monologues.
Over 200 women were interviewed, older women, young women, married women, lesbians, single women, college professors, actors, corporate professionals, sex workers, black women, Asian American women, Latina, Native, Caucasian, and Jewish women.
Okay. At first, women were reluctant to talk. They were a little shy. But once they got going, you could not stop them.
You see, us women, we secretly love to talk about our vaginas. We get very excited, but mainly because no one's ever asked us before.
Yeah. Let's just start with the word vagina. It sounds like an infection at best, or maybe a medical instrument. It's like saying, hurry, nurse, bring me the vagina.
Vagina, vagina, vagina. No matter, it doesn't matter how many times you say it never sounds like a word you want to say. It's totally ridiculous and completely unsexy word.
If you use it during sex, trying to be politically correct, darling, could you stroke my vagina? You kill the act right there.
Or imagine hearing a woman say in the public space, "Oh, my vagina is wet right now." What would happen?
Or even touch your vagina or talk about it like men do about their penises. We never talk about our vaginas, do we?
No, we don't. So you see, we were worried about vaginas, especially what we call them and what we don't call them. Here's what they call vaginas in the US.
In Great Neck, New York, they call it pussycat. A woman there said that her mother used to tell her, don't wear panties underneath your pajamas, dear. You need to air out your pussycat.
In Westchester, they call it a pookie.
In New Jersey, a twat.
There's powder box, a poochie, a poopy, a pee-pee, a popelu, a punani, a pal, and a peesh. Then there is toady, didi, nishi, dignity, monkey box.
Pootsie snorcher, hooter, lubbe.
A wee wee, a horse's spot. And have you heard this one? A nappy dugout.
Mongo, mookie,
A pajama, a funny boo, marshmallow.
A goody, possible, tamale, tortita, coney,
A beanie in Miami.
Split niche in Philadelphia.
And straight from the Bronx, a Schmend.
Yeah, and now, we want to also read some regional, words that we know. And I must say it was hard digging them out. So let me start with the first word in Sanskrit, yoni.
Avaskaram.
Prajanana Nalika.
Chuchi. And the choots. The birds of Sala Chutia, bloody motherfucker. Or the motherfucking mother chodes. Or the behen chode sister fucker.
Vittu haarukka mirri in Finnish.
Sometimes we call it a vajayjay.
Bhosra bhosri, another curse word.
Bur. Pura. Pula. And tit. And from where I'm from in Mauritius, in Mauritian Creole, you will hear susut, liki, tun, tutun, tunbao.
Kanthu in Malayalam. Kavacha in Kannada.
And in Tamil, Pirapuruppu, Pen Kurigal, and Kudi.
Hilloviiva, ketunkolo.
When I was a kid, it could have been cookie. And here in Cape Town, you hear people call it a puss.
Yeah, it was not easy finding words in the Indian languages. And yeah.
And what did I call it before I knew English? What did you call it before you knew English?
I never even called it, or it never existed for me.
Well, isn't that worrisome?
Vaginas need space. Vaginas need voice.
Our vaginas need to talk. So that's why we bring you the vagina monologues.
Because
You were worried.
Yes, very worried.
we were worried about our vaginas.
Yes.
I'm worried
We were.
about vaginas.
We were worried about vaginas.
Terribly worried.
And there we started our journey with our first piece. Now I'm sure you have a context as to why or where this journey of vagina monologue started. So now we are going to enter into our reflection, and I want to introduce the sisters one by one who read the piece today. So let me introduce you first to Meghanayaki. And the way she introduces herself is Meghanayaki is giggling womb, laughing vagina, swaying hair, budding breasts, daughter, sister, auntie, granddaughter. Welcome, Megha. And next, I would like to introduce Pratibha. Pratibha is the soft, wild, witchy, laughing spirit reclaiming her pussy power. Woohoo! Welcome, Pratibha. And now I would like to invite Preeti. Preeti is born to be free. Welcome, Preeti. And Sari. Sari is a mystically oriented seeker and educator. Welcome, Sari. And Martina. Martina is a woman who is embodied, knows her vulva, and is connected to her body and the earth. Welcome, sisters. Yeah. And I would like to just say, I see myself as a compassionate, curious explorer of truth. And that's where we are going to go, to just, see. So thank you so much. Wasn't that exciting? Yeah, without any much practice, we did it. That was such an honor to witness. Yeah. So I want to open this. How was the experience for you reading the monologue?
Strangely liberating.
Hmm.
I felt like,
yeah, go ahead, Martin.
I felt like there's like so much more I wanted to say. So like, yeah, liberating, but also like, I want to say more.
Yeah.
It hit me last night that vagina is the first part of a human body that I came in touch with as a child. Like I was still in the womb, but when I was coming out into this world, so the smell of vagina, the warmth of vagina is something that is not unfamiliar to me. It's part of me. And then I was like, where in my life did I started to dislike the smell of vagina? What is it? It's not a it's here. It's part of my life. That's why I'm here.
For me, I felt safe to do this. As someone who is reclaiming her pussy power, I think that's just enough. I do not need more or less. This is just the right amount of exposure, and the safety is there. So, yeah.
Preeti, do you want to unmute? Yes.
I just felt super excited to be connected to such amazing vaginas and being a part of this.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, everyone. I was so excited. Just seeing all of us together and hearing these words, and that it is live and it could be watched by anyone, anywhere. I mean, it was something very glittery for me. I don't know, sparkling, very sparkling for me. And so I want to open the next question as to what does Vagina Monologues mean to you? Not just as in our participation in it, but just the movement of Eve Ensler and Vagina Monologues, your familiarity. Is this the first time you've heard about it? Or as you have begun to know about it, or when you came to know about it, what did it mean? Why Vagina Monologues?
I can start. I only got hold of the book, and here's my new copy, about a year ago, and I'm 38. Like that, I feel like, damn, that's late. Like, yeah, and it's not a thick book, so I devoured it. Like, it has an introduction by Gloria Steinem, and like everything I was reading was just like, it was just answering, I guess, a call or a curiosity I had, or a longing I had to be part of this, conversation. And I loved, and it will come up later in our series, the naming of the vagina and what does your vagina wear, and like that's a conversation. And then there's something that Eve says in the beginning about how sharing these stories, actually what happened was a flood of women coming to her to tell them about the trauma that they'd experienced. And so when I was reading this, well, I read it in her introduction, I reflected that in my own life, like with a group of friends, when we started talking about our vaginas and sexuality and our first sexual experiences, what came up was this confession of a wave of trauma. And there was a group of us, about, I'd say like 8 or 9 women, and about 90% of the women there had experienced some form of molestation, rape, or sexual abuse. And that was shocking for me. I had no idea. So there's this duality with the book of this like liberation and these stories, and then there's also this like the dark side as well, like, yeah, so I sit with all of that. Yeah.
Thank you, Martin.
For me, Vagina Monologues is a play that I saw in the early 2000s and in Pune, and it completely blew my mind, because till then nobody even uttered the word vagina, and here was a play where women were talking about their vaginas, their desires, their wants, their sexuality, their abuse, and it was so unapologetic and funny. Until then, for me, everything around the vagina was to be kept under wraps. If you bought a pad, you had to, everybody whispered it. You have the shopkeeper would, wrap it up in a black bag or in a newspaper and then give it. If you stained your skirt, it was something to be ashamed of. Nobody talked about women's sexuality, women's needs, women's desires. Everything was supposed to happen after marriage. And here were these women talking about vaginas. And since then, I've always wanted to be a part of this play. I've always wished that I could participate in it. And then COVID happened. I so wish that Rekha would do this online. At the moment she announced it, I just jumped up, and lo and behold, so it's a check on my to-do list, my wish list, my bucket list. I can die happy now.
Thank you, Preeti.
I'm quite sure that the violence against women has to stop. And I think that's where the vagina monologues really serve a place to. So I don't understand, or it's difficult for me to understand that you can't speak about vaginas, but violence is not forbidden.
Yeah.
And this puzzle is really odd. And I think every woman deserves to have a happy life to the extent it's possible without being subjected to violence. Now, and on a more happy note, I think it's lovely to do something which is, the society has kept you from. And I don't mean that the society sort of comes to your home and holds you responsible of talking anything but vaginas. But even I have grown up in a so-called liberal society. No discussion, very little discussion. And I remember when these monologues came out, and we were like, what is this? Why should one talk about vaginas? And now I'm sitting here and thinking, why didn't we talk?
Thank you, Sari.
When I saw the monologues live in 2018 on Facebook from you, Rekha, and all the sisters in Bangalore, I was like dancing crazy, and I was like, I want to be there, because I want to tell my story too. My story is my body, my story was with my vagina. And when I had that line earlier, you have to get down on your back in front of a mirror. So I don't have a full length mirror. But when I went through a facilitated journey with you and as a She Stand Tall, for 2 years, I've been sitting with a small hand mirror every day. And then what I discovered at the end, not really at the end, but in this process, is my vagina, the external, but I'm sure the internal is the same. It changes texture, it changes color, it changes shape. It's as moody, like it's saying things. So every day tells me a different story. The hair around tells me a different story. And then I sit in coaching with women, I sit in circle with women, and there is this need, and I had it me also at one point in my life, like we wanted to be structured, we wanted to behave in a certain way, and this is nature. Nature doesn't behave, nature does its way, nature does just nature. So I feel and I believe that's why I'm here. It's important to be here, and it's a needed conversation. And it's in honor of my mother's vagina and all my grandmothers on both of my sides. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Rekha.
So I first heard about the monologue, the vagina monologue in it was it was an event in Mauritius, and I so when I heard about it, and I felt a sense of shame in my body. I felt, how is it possible for someone to talk, to even say the word vagina for so many time, and and at the same time, I question myself, is it normal for a woman over 40 to feel such shame after being married and having 2 kids? And then I started working on myself, healing. I realized that it was due to the sexual trauma I've been through. And since then, I've worked my way through all those trauma. And when I saw it, I saw the play in 2018. I just wanted to do it just to see how much I've healed, because it's not only for me. I've got a daughter, and what do I teach my daughter? How do I teach her to be free in her body? And then when the invitation came, I didn't have to think much. I just wanted to do it. And it's been really healing, speaking, telling the word vagina so many times. It's been healing, and as if I'm one with it now. So it's not only for me, for my daughter. And since I'm a facilitator, I need to do this work on myself before I can hold space for the women I work with.
Thank you so much, Pratibha. Thank you, everyone. I mean, I'm resonating as I heard each one of you speak. I have my own memories, that are coming up. Some I remembered, some I did not recall. I remember first time I heard about vagina monologue was when I was in college. That's like a while back. And I didn't hear it like where it's happening. I heard conversation that this is happening, and the way it was presented, it was spoken, was like, this Western thing that is spoiling all, going to spoil all Indian women. So my curiosity was quite like, what is this? And but there was no room for that. So it just came, it went away. And I think when I was at my women's spirituality program, I saw the posters calling for actors, and I want to really give a shout out to the director, Lynn Daniels, who is the one who hosted the show twice, and I got to be part of it. And it changed my life. I mean, Vagina Monologues, it really changed my life. And Lynn Daniel, she used to call me the poster child of Vagina Monologues, because she saw how I walked in first day into, this. And I realized I had so many shoulds and should nots connected to culture and religion and tradition. And I must say, my parents never, ever put any shame. They were so open. They never did, but it's just the culture, the society where you grew up, and you see when you are there, if you touch your vagina or itch, and it was a very free, how others would kind of tell you, can't do that, take your hand off, things like that. And then you really start wondering, is something wrong here? And I remember that growing up, is this something, what's going on? And of course, I also want to also highlight what Sari said and what Pratibha also mentioned, the abuse and the violence, and Martina, you as well, about the violence, and I myself have moved through sexual abuse at a very, very early age in my life. And my menstruation was painful. So in so many ways, my vagina was such a mystery, because I feel like my most deepest transcendental experience is also from my vagina. When as a young child, you have this, you have this high tension there if you're holding your pee or something like that, and then you feel like, what happened? You feel so good as you pee, you don't know, you feel like screaming and giggling, and you wonder what happened, so things like that. Yeah, so this is where I want to take, just, I know I'm looking at the time as well. Today is our first day, so those who are watching, I would like to say that today we really want to create the context. That's why it's taking this time. From tomorrow, it would be just the monologue and our reflection. What I also want, as I was reading the piece, what I want to also hear from you is, and to give voice to vagina being used as a curse word. I think almost all over the world, I see that. I see in films, I see in Indian movies, and it shocks me. It hits my body like, I can't even say how it is. It is such chronic pain in the body to hear. And to be, it's also now become, because of the recent years, some of the series which are so popular, it has also become part of the popular culture to use these words. And these are words which are to your mother, to your sister. And I want to name it, and I want to hear your, how does that sit for you? And did you hear growing up? And,
where I grew up, I still use vittu as a curse word. But then I had a change when I realized that it's not a curse word, it's a power word.
Yeah.
So people use it perhaps to gain power.
Yeah.
Perhaps not in the right context, but there is a change that people are looking at this, because that word also has a history. There's a history that goes much longer than the curse word used. So I'm now beginning to see that it's one way to bring power back, a feminine power,
Yeah.
not a masculine power.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much, Sari. That's such a powerful way, It's a taking away of that power, because you don't usually hear women say these words. You usually hear, through the male, men say it, and it's also a taking of power. Yeah, that's very, very powerful.
This way they use one of the words that I mentioned earlier, especially the word leaky. So when you add P in Mauritian Creole, P means stinky, like it's dirty, it's stinky. So we still hear it often, like you hear a man and cursing another guy, or even joking like, yo, leaky pee. And it's really a way of saying, you stinking vagina.
Mm.
And it takes us back to that conversation, like, what is it he's thinking about? It's the vagina, it smells the way it smells.
Yeah.
And this very curse word, like leaky pee, have gotten women. I feel like over the world it's the same, but I see it here because that's where I'm living. This thing about how do I change how it smell now? How do I change how she smell? She better smell something else.
Mm.
And it hurts. For me, the more I grow conscious of it, I cannot help it, but it hurts. Like you're using that word to belittle somebody else because you already think it's less of as an existence, as an organ, however you frame it. Yeah, so there is a sense of less about it.
Thank you so much, Meg.
For me, interestingly, I did not hear any vagina-related cuss words till I got into B school. Though
What's
I grew up
business school?
in
Okay.
business school, I was doing my post graduation. It's quite shocking actually because I lived for 5 years in Delhi. But somehow it just never. Even if it fell on my ears, it never really registered. So that's when it started registering. Women, when people were pissed off with them, they were called cunts. And chutia for men, which is again uh, came from the word chut, which was vagina. And I just wondered, was it so bad? I mean, what was so bad about it? You never tell a guy you look like a penis, but chutia, motherfucker, mother chod, behen chod, these are such commonly used uh, cuss words, and I kind of thought it was very hypocritical because a patriarchal society like India, where women were abused, women were not supposed to have a voice. A lot of women. I'm not talking about cities and educated women. Even there's patriarchy. The man of the house, the father, at least when I was growing up in 90s, it still wasn't that equal. But if a man was called a mother chode, blood would boil, and it became like such a big deal. I mean, you don't respect that woman. Why are you getting so upset about it? So I had all these kind of thoughts that either you respect her and don't use the bloody word, or if you're using this word, then in any case, why are you upset? So I just felt it was very hypocritical. And yeah, why bring the mother into it? Why don't you have these words for men? Women never say father fucker or something like that. But why is women's sexuality? You're degrading the woman by calling that man motherfucker. It's like the mother is she's complicit with the act, or she's allowing that act. I mean, why is women's sexuality dragged into everything? And what is so bad about it? Um, and why do they get to talk about our sexuality when even we are not allowed to talk about it? So it kind of made me angry more than anything else. And yeah, I just felt like I wanted to punch them and say, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that the question is, why is it bad? I would, what, so the question to ask is, who is it? Who is it bad for that women are sexual? I think that's a great question. And, as you speak, I also, see, I come from Kerala, right? And in Malayalam, if I say I hardly know any curse words to the mother.
Oh, okay.
All the curse words I have known growing up in Malayalam are to the father or to the man.
Okay.
Even now, I don't know a curse word. Now, even if they have to say a curse, like I hear in Malayalam movies, say, Linde Ammende, your mothers, they will not say after that. That's the curse word. It's come recent. It wasn't there when I don't remember hearing it as I grew up, but now film culture, this has come, and I'm sure it's come from as Kerala's culture has also shifted from a very matrilineal to becoming overtly patriarchal. So many of these galis, like I have only become present to them in the last decade because of Netflix and Amazon Prime and the movies. And it is deeply saddening because we also have like the word cunt. I just want to give this voice. The word cunt kunt. It means vagina in Indian languages. And kunt and kunti. Kunti belonged to the lineage of Kunt. And so Kunti is a character, a very powerful woman character from the epic Mahabharata. She's a mother of the Pandavas. So imagine a woman named Kunti, she who is the daughter of Kunt. And Kunt is, like you saw in Malayalam also, and even in Sanskrit, it is the word for vagina. So it's just amazing to see that, that we do have to trace the etymology of the word, like how you said, Sari, and how it has come. And I think it is for us women to take the power back. And I think that's what Vagina Monologues, even in the video, that's what I think we are doing. We are taking the power back. So you can't push me anymore. You can't take it. I will say it with pride. I will say it with, juiciness. And what are you going to do about it? Yeah. So I think, so those words, I think truth and all the words that we said today, I think it's, and did everybody get to speak? Pratibha, you haven't spoken, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What I have noticed recently, that many women use the curse word against other women easily. I don't know since when it started and why.
Like in English, Pratibha, like in
English, in my home country, Mauritius, as well. I've seen that, and even if you see on social media, women cursing other women using, and I personally feel my whole ancestry being insulted, and it angers me. I personally find it difficult to use the curse word against someone else, and it really angers me. I feel like insulting my mother, my grandmother. So who are you? Who are you to do that? Yeah.
And thank you, Pratibha. And I think that is kind of the intention also. When men say to men those words, they are insulting the mother. They're hitting where it hits the hardest, because mother is our source, our origin, and today, just to bring trauma reference, I think the most intense trauma is developmental trauma, which is also a lot connected to childbirth and, attachment trauma, with the mother. So I think hurting the mother, it's sad, and it's, I can't even imagine it. And yet we hear that all the time. And so, go ahead, Martina.
I think I wanted to add in, because for me personally, I feel nothing about it. Like, like you guys are feeling very like connected to it. I think it comes just from a place of ignorance. I don't believe the person saying it is imagining this beautiful vulva like the way we feel about vaginas, about our vulva and stuff. It's just like they're just saying a word. And I was also thinking, I might be living in a bubble, like I guess with COVID and social, not being so social and stuff, like I don't hear people talk using vagina swear words like so much. Yes, a little bit on Netflix and stuff. And then I was like, I think I'm watching lots of romantic shows, because I'm not watching masculine shows where there's that like attitude, So I think it's got to do with like who's around and what you're watching and what you're reading. And honestly, I wouldn't tolerate it. I was reading the book, actually, what was it called? The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And the guy wrote something about fucking like Gemma Jamison or whatever her name is. And I'm sorry, it's quite hectic to mention here. And then I just threw the book. I was like, no, I'm not reading that book. Like, so yeah, I think there's an awareness that comes when you get to know yourself and your body, and you have sensitivity towards the feminine, where again, it's a discernment. Okay, that person has an ignorance, or that person is violent, or that person, or this is what's happening. Where do I want to position myself? I don't want to read this. I don't want to watch that. I don't support this. Yeah. So I think that's where I stand with it. I really like the swear word, the C-U-N-T, the cunt. Like, I don't say it to like, I would never call someone that. I just like saying it. I think like Sari is saying, it's like a power word, like cunt.
Yeah.
And I was remembering when I think I was like 12 or 13, Whoopi Goldberg starred in this film where her and her friend, they're like in the kitchen somewhere in the desert, and they're like joking around with the word cunt, and she's trying to like force her friend to say it. And I remember that being like, oh, they're saying the word, and they're trying to get comfortable with it. Like, yeah. So it doesn't harm me when other people say it, because I feel like it comes from a place of ignorance. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I want to acknowledge that as well, and also acknowledge that there might be many women who may not have that opportunity when that word is said to them to ignore it, because it is systemically being used as privilege to also bring down women of color and women of different caste in India. It's systemically used. It's a systemic weapon, and to ostracize, to shame, to shun, to separate women. So that is, and that's why I feel Vagina Monologues is so powerful, and something that I didn't read it this time, but it was part of my first, what she says it is that all these words that shame women, we need to start saying them, because when we ignore them or we don't look at them, then they get more power. The more we start saying them, using them, and calling out when it is said, it starts losing power. It starts coming into dialogue. It starts coming, and as Martina said, you know, to know that that word really does not have power. You know, if we take that power, if I start saying it, this is not as a curse word, but as a blessing, you know, blessing my cunt, blessing my truth, blessing my whatever that word is, you know, if I start using, you know, bosidike, this I was researching, it means the big vagina. So if the first son would be called Chutia, and the second son would be called Bosidike, because the vagina becomes bigger. I mean, it's like somebody put so much attention on these things. It's like it just it makes me, it's bizarre for me. Yeah. So I think we are beginning this journey, sisters, and we have a lot of excitement coming up, and also a lot of pain that we will be holding space on this journey coming, you know, going forward. And these discussions will continue. And today I haven't looked on the Facebook comments or anything like that, but from tomorrow we'll be more engaged. And this video will be available. Today's video will be available. We haven't really decided whether we are going to have all the videos recording available afterwards on the Facebook, but this would be there. So you know, when you come, what is it that you're coming into? Yeah. And yeah, is that, is it time for us to close for tonight, sisters? Yeah, and maybe we can all shout out the vagina. Yeah, the word. Yeah.
Vagina.
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 Yeah. You sneaked something in there. Sorry, I didn't hear. What did you say?
Said vagina. That's how would you would pronounce it.
Vagina, I like it. I really like it. Vagina. That doesn't sound like a medical instrument. That really. Yeah. So blessed be. It was such a joy, yeah, us being together, and yeah, blessings on the journey ahead. Yeah. Good night. Good night.
Thank you, Rekha.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.